anticipate something is going to happen about it, around it. And it's often very subconscious. But then that increases our stress because we start to think about more around self-evaluation. We feel more goal pressure. I mean, September, it's like, okay, we're back at it. It's time to be productive. And that anticipation increases stress. We're also seeing this time of year concentrated costs rising. There's roughly $570 we spend per student. If you're a parent, that's a lot. And then, say you have 2 or 3 kids, that can add up. We move from this loose summer routine. Maybe we're staying up later, and we're now shifting to kind of earlier alarms, more stuff packed in our calendars. Just traffic has increased, so our commute times could increase, and that means more coordination. And that just, all of that together, this temporal landmark added with all this other extraneous pressure and our stress spikes.
What's the impact on us, on our mental, but also on our physical well-being?
There is a significant impact, actually, and that's why it's important for us to not just kind of joke that it's stress-temper and it's intense, but that it can lead to increases in anxiety and depression. We really see this in youth. Data in Canada shows that our youth emergency department visits actually increase for depression for young people going into that fall semester. We also see our anxiety measure. This is according to Canada's Mental Health Index. It spikes in September as well. And it is particularly more stressful for parents. We find that, our sleep is compressed, we're more irritable, and those stress hormones can increase our blood pressure and make us lose focus. So all of that adds up, and, and there's some real important impacts that we can't just ignore.
What are the solutions then? I know you have a suggestion of a reset. You call it Clean Slate September. How do we do it?
It's really interesting when we think about psychological fitness. And one of the things that improves our psychological fitness is, acting what we say. And sort of we are what we say. When we say always and never, in psychology, that's language of permanence. So when we talk about September as always being stressful, or I'm stressed out about fall, that's going to make it come true. It really sort of leads to these outcomes. And so one of the best things that we can do is just take advantage of this landmark. Instead, name an outcome that would make the month a win. Write it as one sentence. Be really simple about it. And then, create a step to get there. What if you're feeling really stressed at work because of all of these things that are happening in the morning? Make a plan so that when you come into work, don't just dive into your emails, which is going to make you more stressed out, or dive into that work. Take 20 minutes and just create a plan for your day. It makes you feel like you're controlling the controllables. You also want to protect your sleep, making sure that you're doing the things to improve sleep hygiene. A great tip for that is go out for 5 minutes in the morning light, even if it's foggy or overcast. That will help you have better sleep in the evening. This pro tip, sleep hygiene really does help. And then also make sure that you're right-sizing the month. We are already dealing with high levels of burnout and chronic stress in our workplaces today. How about we ask for even 5 or 10% reduction in our meeting fatigue? Time poverty is a major stressor, but if we're already dealing with extra overwhelm, it can be the thing that just tips us over and makes it really difficult for us to feel mentally healthy in September.
And while we're on solutions, you actually have another idea, something called WHOOP, that can help. What is that?
I love this. This is an intervention that I haven't created, but I love it because the way that it spells it out, it kind of makes you feel like you want to go, whoopee, when you're done, this plan, this intervention, because it really is about cognitive hope building. And when we say hope is a strategy, there's a reason we say that, and that hope isn't a strategy is a myth. And that's because when we create goals and we celebrate goals and we make them incremental so that we can celebrate them, we don't make them too big, it does make us feel better about the future. It makes us feel like we can achieve and accomplish bigger objectives. So, for example, if it is school routine, and people, I'm talking to parents out there, I know not all of you are parents, but there's a lot of people that are dealing with all of the stress in the morning. So we want to do things like, plan. So the whole point of WHOOP is wish, outcome, obstacle, plan. So I'll give you an example. Wish, reestablish what it looks like to have a healthy morning. The outcome would be we leave and feel happy and everyone's in a good mood and I get to work on time. The obstacle is we don't have lunches ready in the morning. We're running around looking for things like, shoes and all of those things we're trying to bring to school with us. And the plan would be, okay, let's make our lunches the night before. Let's make sure we're setting our alarms 5 minutes earlier, and then making sure that our sleep routine at night is a little bit more copacetic, that it's more focused on having a healthy morning. So all of these things are whoop. When we get this done after the month, we'll be able to check it off and say, whoopee, I finished. We did this. We got through September, and we feel really good. And all of that just makes September a lot less stressful.
Thank you so much for this.
Thank you so much for having me.
Whoop, whoop. That's the end of the interview. That is Jennifer Moss, an author, workplace wellbeing strategist, and frequent contributor to CBC Radio. So hopefully that might be a little bit of a jolt for you this Monday morning if you've been feeling a little down in the dumps. We'll get through September together, and there's so much joy in the month as well. All those firsts can also kind of offset sometimes some of the stress. It's paring down the list and remembering to be realistic. Coming up, we're going to talk about business news. So Hallie Cottonham's going to be in with our report. Today, she's talking about an immigration crackdown in the United States that's caused an international incident. We will get the latest with that raid that happened in a Hyundai plant in Georgia, in case you missed it, right after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, get set to feel some nice, warm temperatures. We'll be above seasonal all week. Today's high 22, although we will see increasing clouds today. Slight chance of afternoon showers before the sky clears out again. So once again, today's high 22. It is the third day of a community-wide search for a missing woman in Wasagamak First Nation. 31-year-old Roxanne Little was last seen August 22nd at her uncle's home, where she stayed in that Island Lake community. She was reported missing Friday. Over the weekend, Wasagamak and Garden Hill led house-to-house searches. Her uncle, Alfred Harper, says she hasn't been active on social media, and it's not like her to not come home after a couple of days. He says RCMP arrived yesterday to join search teams from Wasagamak and Garden Hill. Roxanne Little is 5'2". She has long black hair, a slim build. Anyone with information is asked to contact police. Schools in Brandon have a new safety measure in place after a sword attack earlier this year. The racially motivated attack by one student on another left the victim with serious injuries to his fingers, chest, and thigh. Now, every school in Brandon will have a Safe School Advisory Committee. Brandon School Division Superintendent Matthew Gustafson says they will enhance safety, inclusion, and well-being.
It will affect different people differently. It will have an impact, and I'm sure that people will look at some of the training like lockdown drills and fire drills and things like that in a different light.
The division is also expanding its safety plan with staff training, audits, and new technology to improve emergency alerts. A 16-year-old student faces charges including attempted murder in the June sword attack. Former Winnipeg Blue Bombers star Willard Reeves is making a return to the political arena. Reeves plans to run for the leadership of Manitoba's Liberal Party. He previously ran unsuccessfully in a 2022 by-election and the 2023 general election in the Fort White riding for the provincial Liberals.
That didn't stop me. What I did was open up a book and read everything I can possibly read about politics, the difference of politics, and what we need to do and how we need to do it.
Reeves also served as the Liberal Party deputy leader for a number of months. He says he has not identified where he would run to get a seat in the Manitoba legislature. The party has a leadership convention late next month. Now, Christopher Adams, a political sciences professor at the U of M, says while many think of Reeves as the football star with the Bombers and in college football in Arizona where he grew up, running for the Liberal leadership makes sense given the party's difficult situation.
They've been reduced to one seat as of the last election, and Cindy Lamoureux has expressed no interest in running for the leadership this time around. So the party needs a leader, and Willard Reeves looks like somebody who'd be quite suited to that position.
Adams says the party will have to find a constituency where Reeves can run. Now to Jerusalem. Six people are dead after armed attackers opened fire today on a bus stop in the city. More than a dozen people are injured, with police saying 6 are in serious condition. Police say the attackers, who have yet to be identified, were shot and killed on the scene. The shooting took place at a major intersection on a road that leads to Jewish settlements in East Jerusalem. There has been no claim of responsibility. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is currently holding a situation assessment with the heads of his government's security establishment. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 7. Agriculture ministers from federal, provincial, and territorial governments across the country are meeting in Winnipeg this week. The aim? Finding ways to strengthen and make Canada's ag sector more competitive. Manitoba Agriculture Minister Ron Kostishin says he empathizes with Manitoba producers impacted by drought this season.
We value the importance of agriculture not only in Manitoba, across Canada, because I think we're on a scope of opportunity of added value, business opportunities that we can make in Canada moving forward in a positive manner.
The annual conference also comes as Canadian canola producers feel the impact of a 75.8% tariff from China. The federal government pledged $370 million in incentives for canola last week. The owner of a pumpkin patch in St. Andrews got an outpouring of support to help save her harvest over the weekend. Schwabe Pumpkins owner Melody Schwabe says drought put the Interlake farm about a month behind schedule. She put out a tearful video on social media before frost was supposed to come, and the community stepped up.
So many of the people had never even heard of my farm or been here, and they just came, some with their kids. There were lots of seniors who came out too, and people from all walks of life. It was just beautiful to meet everybody.
And in her pumpkin patch, Schwabe says about 100 volunteers helped out between Friday and Saturday. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Lovely story of generosity there. Now let's get to the forecast. If you are going to be out in the fields today, it's looking pretty good. I don't see rain anywhere.
Yeah, mild Monday, Marcy, I must tell you. However, it's just going to be the cloudy conditions we will be dealing with today. But that's just with the sunny conditions also coming with that. A slim chance of showers in some areas, but nothing to worry about. We have cool, damp conditions near the Hudson Bay coast. In Winnipeg, right now, 11 degrees at this time. Partly cloudy skies. We do have light breeze coming from the southwest. Cloud cover will increase through the afternoon. We have a slim chance of showers for the Winnipeg area. Temperatures will warm up to around 22 degrees. Then we'll see some clear conditions with fog patches developing overnight in the Red River Valley region. Looking at conditions in the Pembina Valley region from Morden, Winkler, Altoona, Morris down to the U.S. border, we're seeing 7 degrees at this time. Temperatures really the conditions really cloudy at that in that part of the province. Gentle winds coming from the south. More clouds will build as we get into the day. We'll see some afternoon showers in that part of the province, and temperatures will get to 23 degrees. The humidity is going to feel close to 27 for that part of the province. In the Westman region, Brandon is currently cool at 6 degrees right now. Clear conditions we have there. Cloud cover will take over. We still have a slim chance of showers in that part of the province. The temperatures will reach 25 degrees, and with the humidity factored in, it may feel humid at some point around 28 degrees. Over in the Parkland region, Dauphin, Russell, Roblin, we're looking at temperatures hover around 12 degrees. Clear in that part of the province. Mild southwest breeze. East, expect a slim chance of a late morning or midday showers in that part of the province. Temperatures near 24 degrees. That's the high for today. In the Interlake region, Gimli and surrounding area, we're seeing 9 degrees. Also cloudy in that part of the province. A gentle southwest winds coming your way. Clouds cover will linger through the day with a slim chance of showers in the afternoon. Temperature will warm up to 23 degrees. Now, looking at conditions up north, the powerful influence surrounding areas still in the low teens at this time. 12 degrees we're tracking in some areas. areas, mostly cloudy there. Just a bit of northerly winds in that part of the province, and temperature will get to 22. Thompson is at 7 at this point under partly cloudy did I say 27? 7 degrees rather in Thompson under partly cloudy skies. A light southerly breeze, increasing clouds will bring some, a bit slim chance of showers to that part of the province, and 23 degrees, that's the high. The humidity, that's what I was talking about, will get to 27 degrees for Thompson today. Churchill is sitting at 6, mostly cloudy, light winds coming from the southeast, warming up to 11 degrees.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
All of that to say that just when we thought it was going to be freezing for the rest of September, no.
Back to it.
Boom.
Just in time for the weekend to be done. Perfect.
Well, I know there is that. The commute today, how's it going?
Very quiet commute so far. Haven't heard of any major issues out there. But if you are walking, biking, driving, and you want to tell us about what you're seeing out there, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
All right, thank you, Corey Funk.
Thank you.
Let's get into business news now. It's 21 minutes to 7 o'clock. Kelly Cottenham joins us. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy.
So an immigration crackdown in the U.S. Has caused an international incident. What is the latest with what happened at the Hyundai plant in Georgia?
Yeah, the South Korean foreign minister is arriving in Washington today to discuss what happened. And the country is organizing a chartered flight to bring the workers home once this situation is worked out. But just to recap, this raid on an EV battery plant under construction resulted in the detention of 475 people. Now, the search warrant targeted Hispanic workers, but more than 300 of those detained were South Korean nationals. ICE released a video of them shackled around their hands and ankles and waists. The South Korean government was not given a heads up, Marcy, according to a report in the Wall Street Journal. It's causing a lot of shock and dismay in South Korea, which is one of the biggest direct foreign investors in the U.S. A Korean academic told Bloomberg that the raid felt like a stab in the back.
Let's go to another story. This one for sure is going to develop through the day, that Hyundai plant one rather. But your other story is actually taking us to the skies. Trouble in the air, but also on the ground.
Yeah, a WestJet plane made a hard landing yesterday on a runway in St. Martin in the Caribbean. It appears the right landing gear collapsed on impact. I watched a video that shows one of the plane's wings and one of its engines sort of scraping along the runway. You can see smoke rising before the plane came to a stop. 164 passengers had to jump onto those inflated sides and slide down to the tarmac. Emergency foam was sprayed all over to prevent fire. No injuries were reported. That's the good news. A few people were taken to hospital to be checked out. So that's WestJet. In other airline news, Marcy, flight attendants at Air Canada have overwhelmingly rejected the latest wage offer. 99.1% of QP's 10,000 members said no way. Now, this was the tentative offer that ended that 3-day strike that caused so much havoc for summer travelers. But it came after the feds waded in, invoking Section 107 of the Canada Labour Code. QP says the feds' meddling had a, quote, corrosive effect on the process. But bottom line, both sides had agreed to binding arbitration if the deal wasn't ratified. So flights will continue to operate as this whole process continues.
Now, you told us, Hallie, not too long ago that people who watched the Stanley Cup finals were subjected to thousands of gambling ads. I know we've done lots of journalism around this, but there also now is something that's been done about it.
Yeah, doctors are calling for restrictions on sports betting ads to protect young people from a future of problem gambling. An editorial published in the Canadian Medical Association Journal today says the legalization of online gambling has made every smartphone a potential betting platform. The editor of the CMAJ, Dr. Shannon Charlebois, says youth are being inundated with advertising that equates enjoying sports with betting. She says that constant exposure normalizes harmful behavior. She says a bill to regulate sports betting advertising has been introduced in the Senate. She'd like to see ad restrictions during games and removed from social media platforms that youth use.
And finally, that Powerball lottery, the huge one, was won over the weekend. It ended up being split, right?
Yeah, two winning tickets, one in Missouri, the other in Texas. They'll split $1.8 billion. That's the second largest U.S. lottery jackpot in history, and it was because there had been something like 41 consecutive draws in which no one matched all 6 numbers. So each of those 2 ticket holders will have to choose between a 30-payment annuity that adds up to more than $890 million or an upfront lump sum payment of $410 million, Now, I point out this is the U.S., and those winnings will be taxed.
But you'll still be able to afford the new Lego set that's coming out, the most expensive ever, right?
Yes. Did you see that? The Star Wars Death Star.
I got Lego in my house, so I got a builder in my house. I need to clear out rooms now.
Well, before you make any promises, let me warn you that this will be $1,300 Canadian to buy this Star Wars Death Star. But it has more than 9,000 pieces, and it comes with 38 minifigures, Marcy. Hits the market on October 4th. Curious, I've been talking with folks across the country, and I have had to admit that I have more than 9,000 pieces of Lego in my house, and I can't seem to part with it, Marcy, because it was so darn expensive. I don't know what to do with it.
Do you have the adult builds then, or do you have just Lego from like back in the day or something?
We have all sorts. We have the kids Lego from, and then now that they're older, now that they're teenagers, we're getting them the adult sets.
Oh, yeah.
And they build them a couple of times and then they stop. And I just don't know what to do with it all.
Well, you need a room to display. Like I have shelves now. Oh, yeah. I have a mount that I bought on Etsy that like shows the Concorde on the wall. And I got to put all this stuff up somewhere because I don't have enough space in the house. Yeah,
I don't know how many more sets of bonsai Lego a family needs, but
I'll tell you what, though, it's become the new puzzling, for people of all ages, and or maybe it was always there, but it's another form of art, mental health. People just love it. So.
Puzzles cost $20, Marcy. Lego sets, May.
Yeah, okay. That comparison's not straight. You're right. Way more expensive. Thank you, Hallie. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Okay, take care.
That is Hallie Cotnam. She's with CBC Business News. By the way, as I mentioned, that Lego is coming out. It's available in Canada because I know these things on September 15th. Well, we've got some music that was just released last month from Winnipeg artist Leith Ross. If you want to see Leith, he's going to be playing. They're going to be playing 2 shows on Friday, October 17th, and then also on the 18th. They're both at the Park Theatre, so that's in October. You got to wait a month, but you don't have to wait for the music. This is new music from Leith Ross. This is Stay.
Oh, how I love you, and if I could know you more than I know you now, then I could know somehow how to love you.
Winnipeg's Leith Ross and Stay, and they will be playing 2 shows coming up, as I mentioned, at the Park Theatre here in the city next month, October 17th and 18th.
Legendary singer-songwriter captivates her audience in a legendary venue.
Welcome to Massey Hall.
Jan Arden, with an evening of original hit songs and some of her favorite pop covers from her latest album, Mixtape. Jan Arden, CBC Live at Massey Hall. Watch free on CBC Gem.
Thank you.
School's back, and so is the CBC Music Class Challenge, celebrating its 10th anniversary, powered by Music Counts. Music educators across the country pick a song from our list, create a cover version, and upload a video of your class performing the cover. Amazing prizes are up for grabs, including $30,000 worth of new musical instruments. Check out all the details and register now at cbc.ca/musicclass.
Our time right now is 11 minutes to 7 o'clock on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. It is Monday morning, everybody. September the 8th, first full week back at school for the kiddos across Manitoba. It's partly cloudy. It's 11 degrees in the city of Winnipeg, that is. In the city of Brandon, it's mainly clear. It's 6 degrees. And in Thompson, it is partly cloudy and 6 as well. For Winnipeg today, our high is going to be 22. We have increasing cloud and a 30% chance of some showers moving in. The commute's been good so far. Slow down in those school zones. 788-3093 is where you can reach us. Well, the wildfires have impacted so many people across this country. And one of the impacts has been the inability to breathe well in the smoke. Now, some patients, of course, people rather, are more impacted than others. People who live with respiratory diseases like pulmonary fibrosis can be particularly vulnerable to the harmful effects. Joining us to talk about getting access to care around this is Dr. Giovanni Ferrara. He is a professor of medicine and director of the Division of Pulmonary Medicine at the University of Alberta. Good morning. Thank you for being here.
Good morning. Thank you for having me with you.
Can you tell us more about how the wildfire smoke, makes everything worse for patients that live with this?
Absolutely. So, the smoke of wildfires is really irritating for the airways and for the lungs of each of us, really. And I'm pretty sure you experience yourself the difficulties in very smoky days of going out and of, starting to have some cough, some fatigue. It is very common, right? If you think about patients with respiratory disease, and especially patients with pulmonary fibrosis, those patients live every day of their life with symptoms like shortness of breath and cough and inability to perform, physical exercise because of the limitation of the disease. During those days, all these problems are multiplied, basically magnified, and the patients start to be very short of breath, cough more, and to a point that often they need to go to the emergency room and pretty often also to be admitted to the hospital. So it is a serious problem.
And what if they can't just easily be admitted to the hospital or even access care? Tell me more about what that means for people.
So these are diseases that require certain expertise in their management because they can go very wrong during exacerbations or clinical worsening of this type. And unfortunately, especially people living in rural settings, not always are close to an hospital with this expertise or have access to specialists in pulmonary disease that know how to manage these problems. So it is a dire situation for sure for many patients.
Now, this situation varies across the country, of course, because all of our healthcare systems are, operating slightly differently. But in general, how would you describe access to specifically, oxygen, which is the treatment for pulmonary fibrosis, compared to lung disease?
Yes. So generally speaking, oxygen is widely available in Canada. The problem is about the reimbursement, how healthcare systems do assess and reimburse the oxygen for specific conditions. Now, the main criteria that was used in the past was that oxygen should prolong the life of patients with respiratory diseases. And this was based mostly on what happens with patients with COPD. In patients with pulmonary fibrosis, it is really different. So oxygen is not really a treatment for pulmonary fibrosis, doesn't do anything to the disease itself. Disease goes on regardless of the oxygen, but oxygen is very important to mitigate, to alleviate the symptoms of the patients. So the shortness of breath, the capacity of performing things during the day, the quality of life, basically. And this is extremely important. That should be much more weighted when it comes to reimbursement.
What are the issues with the criteria that are used to determine the need for oxygen?
Yeah, that's exactly the point. The main idea is that oxygen should prolong the life of the patients. And again, this was based on what happens with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, which is a very, very common disease. Unfortunately, this is not true with pulmonary fibrosis. Pulmonary fibrosis is getting worse over time, during time. And oxygen does not change the number of days or years that patients live with oxygen. The only thing that does, and which is, again, very important, is to alleviate shortness of breath, the cough, and allow the patients to be more active, to take a walk, to do their activities during the day.
And if I may interject, so that criteria, is that standard across the whole country? Because I was going to ask you what you'd like to see changed, but that'll lead to that, where we need changes.
Yes. So it varies across provinces and territories. A few provinces are more restrictive, others are more liberal about the reimbursement of oxygen. On my side, what I would like to see is much more awareness about the problem, much more preparedness, much more understanding for the problems these patients are facing every day, and help, especially when it comes again to wildfires, and to be ready to face and to go through those days without having the need to go to an emergency room, basically.
We'll leave it there, Doctor. Thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you.
So that is with us live via Zoom, Dr. Giovanni Ferrara, a professor of medicine and director of the Division of Pulmonary Medicine at the University of Alberta, talking to us about a concern that is shared by many places in the country, which is access to oxygen. And as he said, the criteria that needs to be met to receive it might not be working for all patients. If you have a disease that is not going to be improved, but your symptoms will be alleviated by this, still means you might need to get the oxygen. It is 4 minutes now to 7 o'clock on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube, by the way. We're back up on YouTube if you're watching there. Just had a bit of a blip early this morning. I want to mention where we're going to be out this week, because we're going to be out in our community on Wednesday morning. So we're going to be live at Merchants Corner on Selkirk Avenue, and we're really looking forward to it. The community's putting on somewhat of a breakfast event around us as well. Merchants Corner, you might know, is dedicated to supporting and empowering people through education and housing and community development. It is in there. There's people that live there. There's 30 affordable housing units. There's also classroom space. There's community facilities there also. It was a dream that was years in the making, decades in the making. You might know that the Merch opened officially in 2018 was when it opened, right before the pandemic. But it replaced the old Merchants Hotel on Selkirk Avenue, which had meant something very different in the community than this place. So this is continuing to grow and change, this facility, and we're going to go and check it out. We're also going to meet some of the folks that have benefited from what happens at Merchants Corner there. And we'll also learn what its place is in the wider picture of Selkirk Avenue. And I took a walk down the avenue Friday, actually, to just sort of get a sense of the current status of what's happening for the community there. It's pretty much the main street for that part of the city's North End neighborhood. So we're going to be live at Merchants Corner Wednesday morning with Information Radio. Right now, though, let's go to Heather Wells, who's here with our CBC News headlines this Monday.
Good morning. Willard Reeves says he can bring the Manitoba Liberals back to official party status. Reeves has announced he will run for party leader, but hasn't said where he will try to win a seat. The former Winnipeg Blue Bombers star says he wants to make a difference in people's lives. He says politicians need to stop opposing everything and work together for solutions. Agriculture ministers from federal, provincial, and territorial governments across the country are meeting in Winnipeg this week. The aim? Finding ways to strengthen and make Canada's ag sector more competitive. I'll be back with more Manitoba news at 7:30.
All right. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Right now, actually, Corey is looking at the canola story and trying to see if we can get someone on a little bit later in the program to talk more about the funding that's coming for canola, but it's specifically also supposed to be used to be targeting different ways of using canola, as Heather alluded to there. So that'll be coming up later in the show if we can get something on it here. Live radio, folks, thanks for being with us on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. 11, partly cloudy in Winnipeg. Our high today, 22. The drive is fine. Your commute's been pretty good. Watch for the students. Everyone's back today all across Manitoba for the first 5-day week. 788-3093 if you need to reach us with traffic. Coming up on the program after 7 o'clock, the designs of a local Indigenous artist are going to be featured in Walmarts all across Canada. This is part of this year's Orange Shirt Day campaign. She's going to join us in studio at 7 o'clock with some of her designs and to talk about the opportunity. Also in the next hour, some bears on Broadway are also going to be sporting something new, some new coats. We're going to meet the artist who's painting some of those iconic bears. And then at 10 to 8 this morning, we will hear how a lawyer from Swan Lake First Nation went from being the first in her family to attend university to achieving another historical milestone for Manitoba this time. So we'll find out more about what that is. It's all still ahead on Information Radio. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Stay with us. World Report's next.
School's back, and so is the CBC Music Class Challenge, celebrating its 10th anniversary. Powered by Music Counts. Music educators across the country pick a song from our list, create a cover version, and upload a video of your class performing the cover. Amazing prizes are up for grabs, including $30,000 worth of new musical instruments. Check out all the details and register now at cbc.ca/musicclass.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Israel's foreign minister says at least 6 people have been killed in a shooting attack in Jerusalem. Ambulances rushed to the scene in the north of the city. The attack happened at a bus stop during the morning rush hour. Officials say 2 attackers opened fire. They then boarded a bus and continued to shoot before being killed by a soldier. More than 12 people are wounded. Many are in serious condition. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke to media at the scene. He says such attacks do not weaken Israelis. They only strengthen the determination to defeat their enemies. Hamas has denied carrying out the attack, but in a statement, Hamas called it a natural response to Israel's military operations in Gaza. A judge in Australia has sentenced a triple murderer to life in prison. Erin Patterson was convicted in July of killing 3 relatives in 2023. She served them a meal of beef Wellington laced with poisonous mushrooms. Phil Mercer has more from Sydney.
The total effective sentence is life imprisonment, and I fix a non-parole period of 33 years.
Justice Christopher Beale says Erin Patterson had shown no remorse for killing her estranged husband's parents and an aunt. Ian Wilkinson narrowly survived the fatal lunch at the killer's home. He spoke outside the court in Melbourne.
We're thankful that when things go wrong, there are good people and services and systems available to help us recover.
The court was told there was no clear motive for Patterson's crimes. Criminologist Brianna Chesser.
Justice Beale quite rightly said that Ms Patterson is in fact the only person who understands why she acted the way that she did.
Australia's mushroom killer will be eligible for parole in 2058. She'd be in her early 80s. Patterson is expected to serve her sentence in solitary confinement in a high-security unit for her own protection. Phil Mercer for CBC News, Sydney.
Nepal state media is reporting at least 14 people have been killed in protests outside the country's parliament. Tens of thousands of people are in Kathmandu, criticizing the government's decision to block most social media. Police fired tear gas, rubber bullets, and water cannons, but the large crowd pushed through barbed wire and forced riot officers to retreat within the parliament buildings. The situation is still tense. Nepal's government says it is imposing a curfew. Nepal has blocked about 24 social networking sites, including Facebook, X, and YouTube. Protesters call it censorship, but the government says those companies ignored orders to officially register in the country. Northern India and Pakistan are experiencing some of the worst flooding the region has seen in decades. More than 2 million people have been displaced. Thousands of villages in the state of Punjab are destroyed. As Isha Bhargava reports, organizations across Canada are sending help.
This kind of destruction we never see.
Narinder Singh Walia says he's shocked by the calamity that has struck Punjab. The head of the Guru Nanak Food Bank in Surrey and Delta in BC has helped with flood relief in several parts of India over the years. But this time, he says the damage is beyond imagination.
They have no house, they have no farm, they have no food, nothing. There was at least 8 feet, 9 feet water in the village.
Intense monsoon rains and heavy flooding in recent weeks have submerged villages, killing hundreds and leaving millions stranded. Prahlad Kohli is founder of Nishkam Canada, based in Brampton, Ontario. He says the loss of livestock and crops has shaken the region, which heavily relies on farming.
Those type of losses are difficult to bear. Even managing their home, managing their expenses is going to be a lot.
Canadian organizations are also joining forces to provide all the help they can. Nishkam has sent food, water, first aid kits, and other items. The Guru Nanak Food Bank has partnered with a local radio station to host a fundraiser today. They're hoping to raise at least $1 million. Over the weekend, Indian Air Force pilots airlifted almost 6 tons of relief supplies. But authorities warn rain could continue over the next few days. Meanwhile, the top priority for both Kohli and Walia is to help resettle communities and rebuild what was lost. Isha Bhargava, CBC News, Toronto.
The French Parliament is expected to oust the Prime Minister today. François Bayrou is facing a confidence vote over his austerity budget. It created fierce opposition among lawmakers. Bayrou has been in the role for less than a year, and if he is ousted, France's President Emmanuel Macron will be under significant pressure. He will need to appoint a new PM or call an election. Black teen girls in Ontario are less likely to seek mental health services than their white peers. That is according to new research published today in the Canadian Medical Association Journal. Researchers examined surveys from more than 12,000 Black and white Ontario students. They wanted to examine the differences when it comes to accessing care. The CBC's Alison Northcott reports.
When you don't access care, it affects their ability to succeed in school, build healthy relationships.
Mercedes Sobers, a PhD candidate at the Dalla Lana School of Public Health in Toronto, says her research in the Canadian Medical Association Journal points to a mental health care system that isn't working for everyone.
We found that Black adolescents, especially girls, are less likely than their white female peers to access care.
While the research looking at thousands of Ontario middle and high school students found Black girls were the least likely to access mental health care, Black boys were more likely to access care when in low distress, but less likely than their white peers to do so when their distress was higher. Bukola Salami, Canada Research Chair in Black and Racialized People's Health, has studied gaps in access to primary care and says several factors can drive disparities.
We found that anti-Black racism and people's experiences using health services is a major barrier to access to health services. We've also found that the lack of representation of Black people in mental health service delivery, is also a barrier.
The system wasn't really designed for the needs of Black youth.
Tianda Fonte-Coleman with Black Health Alliance says mental health care providers need to consider Black youth's backgrounds, family migration histories, and experiences of racism. She says some programs are now doing that.
Youth are experiencing care from providers that look like them, who understand their background, who can empathize with them in a very particular way. And so that leads to a certain feeling of safety.
Now, she says that kind of care needs to be expanded across Canada. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
Canada's military and Coast Guard are training to contain environmental disasters in the high Arctic. The melting ice in the north has led to an increase in ship traffic. That comes with a greater risk to the environment and security. The CBC's David Common brings us more from the Coast Guard vessel Pierre Radisson.
Surrounded by glacier-peaked mountains, Coast Guard crew members drop a yellow tube down the hull of their ship. They're simulating the response to contain an oil or fuel spill.
Our job is if we see anything that's abnormal.
Titus Alalou runs the Canadian Ranger Unit in Pond Inlet. It is part of the Canadian military and made up largely of Inuit and others indigenous to the region, those who know the land and water and who the government relies on to be the eyes of the North.
Sometimes they task us to look for certain vessels in summertime, and when we're out on our own on camping.
With warming waters and melting ice, by the turn of the next century, the Northwest Passage could be largely ice-free. But much sooner, the potential of shipping from Asia to Europe through the Arctic will mean steadily increasing traffic, and with it, more risk, says Rob Hubert of the Center for Military Security and Strategic Studies.
What is happening in the Arctic is going to have a very significant impact on what's happening worldwide.
And so the planning continues to respond to a potential disaster in the most remote part of the country. David Common, CBC News, near the Nunavut community of Mitimatalik, or Pond Inlet.
Rick Davies, the co-founder and frontman of the British band Supertramp, has died.
Right, you're bloody well right. You got a bloody right.
Davies helped write and sing some of the band's best-known songs, including this hit from 1974. It helped launch Supertramp on a path to fame, millions of record sales, and 2 Grammys. The band says Davies died on the weekend. He had been diagnosed with multiple myeloma, a type of blood cancer, a decade ago. Rick Davies was 81.
Me, I don't care anyway.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thank you for joining us this Monday on Information Radio here on CBC. 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube, and woo, nice day again. Yesterday in Winnipeg, just gorgeous. Today it looks like it's going to be pretty nice. Maybe not as much sunshine, but Abby's in with the forecast, as always, in just a moment. This hour on the program, we have a lovely story, actually more than one. First of all, the designs of a local Indigenous artist are going to be featured in Walmarts all across Canada as part of this year's Orange Shirt Day campaign. In fact, you might have already spotted them. She's in studio to tell us more about the opportunity. In addition, some bears on Broadway are now sporting new coats. We're going to meet another artist this hour when we go out and about with our community reporter. This artist painted up some of those iconic bears around town, so maybe you've seen it. And then at 10 to 8 this morning, we're going to hear how a lawyer from Swan Lake First Nation went from being the first in her family to attend university to achieving a historical milestone for all of Manitoba. She is the first Indigenous woman to serve as president of the Manitoba Bar Association. So we're going to talk to her just before 8. Right now, let's talk to Heather Wells because she's here with our headlines and our updates on stories that are developing. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, it is the third day of a community-wide search for a missing woman in Wasagamak First Nation. 31-year-old Roxanne Little was last seen August 22nd at her uncle's home where she stayed in that Island Lake community. Over the weekend, Wasagamak and Garden Hill led house-to-house searches. Well, as Brandon students head back to class, some parents say they feel reassured by new safety measures. Last June, a black student at Neelan High School was seriously injured in a sword attack. The new Safe Schools Advisory Committees are going to be in every school coordinating advice on safety strategies and policies. We're going to hear from one parent coming up in our next local news at 7:30.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Corey Funk is here to talk about the commute, but that's going to have to wait until Abby tells us about the weather.
Yeah, Marcy, it's a mild start across board. Cloud cover we're seeing from the south all the way spreading to the northern part of the province this morning. We see light rain showers in the Power Flame Flowing, the Lynn Lake area. We're already seeing light showers in that area. But for Winnipeg right now, it is now 10 degrees outside, partly cloudy outside. As we move through the day, cloud cover will build. We do have a slim chance of showers in the forecast. Temperatures will rise steady all the way to around 22, which is above seasonal for this time of the year, making it mild and comfortable overall. And in the southern part of the province, we are sporting 10 to 13 degrees. Up north, we're still going to see temperatures climb to around 19 to 21, except for Churchill, that will only get to 11 degrees today. But for Winnipeg right now, 10 degrees, and it's going to be a beautiful day today.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
And now to Corey. I made you wait.
I know, yes. But so just got a call from Daniel on the commuter line. He says northbound east perimeter just after the number one. So even if you're turning kind of from the number one north onto the east perimeter there, there's a collision, a multi-vehicle collision in the far left lane. He says you can still go around that collision, but of course, give them space. You have to go slow. Traffic is starting to back up. So that's the northbound east perimeter just after the number one. So heads up there. I'll keep an eye on that. And if you have updates on that or anything else you're seeing out there, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number to call, 204-788-3093.
Well, as I mentioned, a local artist from Pimicikamak Cree Nation says she's thrilled to be selected for Walmart Canada's Orange Shirt Day campaign this year. Brooklyn Rudolph Nicholas is an award-winning Indigenous artist. Last year, she came across an open call through Indigenous Proud. This is an initiative that supports Indigenous-led cultural revitalization. And then last week, her T-shirts became available at Walmarts all across the country. This is ahead of National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, where we all wear orange, of course, on September 30th. And she joins us in studio. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thank you.
Thank you. What was it like for you to walk into Walmart and see your shirts?
It was surreal. Whenever I, submitted my art for this call out with Indigenous Proud, I was not expecting it to be with Walmart. So it was quite a surprise.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Can you describe the shirt just for our radio audience?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So the shirt was inspired by my late grandparents. They were both residential school survivors. And I wanted to, showcase and honor them as well as all the children that attended these schools. And, the eagle flying above represents love, one of the 7 sacred teachings. And the star in the middle there represents Kiwatin in Cree. That means the going home star, guiding the children home.
I love that. So the picture is in a circle, and then there's like a sunrise or sunset.
Yeah, it could be either or.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful, vibrant orange and blues there, and then there's trees that look like northern Manitoba.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And then there is it looks to be 2 children holding hands. Do they represent your grandparents?
Yes, they do. They do represent my grandparents and all the children that attended these schools. And I also wanted to, have them hold hands to represent a unity and resilience together, standing together strong.
Are your grandparents still with us?
No, they passed away.
Yeah. So they don't know this.
No, but I know they would be really proud of me. For sure.
Yeah. What's the rest of your family think about it?
They're very proud. They're very proud that I'm using my art to support others through their healing journeys, and I couldn't be more proud.
What do you think about on Orange Shirt Day? I mean, obviously, we're talking about your design, but what does it mean to you?
It means, for my art personally, I want to use this as a platform to support healing for Indigenous survivors and families across the country. And I am so grateful that, I've gotten this opportunity, because this brings a lot of visibility for truth and reconciliation across Canada.
How did they tell you? Like, do they phone you and say, hey, it's Walmart? Or you know what I mean? Like, have you been chosen?
Yeah, so it was through Indigenous Proud. It's an Indigenous organization, and they are the ones who collaborate with Walmart. So it was really cool to sit down with all of us together and kind of discuss the whole process. But after I submitted my submission, they contacted me a few months later, and they were like, oh yeah, by the way, you were selected. So it was very exciting.
Where did the design first show up for the shirt? Like, is this an image that you had, drawn before or painted before, or was it specific to for the shirt?
Okay, so this design I actually painted a few years ago. So it was inspired by my grandparents and, survivors and children who attended these schools.
Yeah.
And whenever I seen the art submission call out, I was like, okay, you know what? Let me just submit this painting. It holds a very close place to my heart. And it just so happened to be selected. So I was like, oh my gosh, yay.
But what do you want people to know about your grandparents?
I want people to know that, they are very strong. They were very strong people. And what happened in these schools are, unfortunately all too common among Indigenous communities across the country. And if there's anything you could take away from this campaign, I want others to know that when you support a campaign like this or Indigenous survivors and people across the country, you're supporting the healing and truth and reconciliation as well. So it means a lot.
You are donating a portion of shirts as well. Tell me a little bit about that.
Of course. So I wanted to allow other people to, be a part of this meaningful campaign. I know not everybody can afford shirts. And I actually applied for a grant through the government of Manitoba, and I will be donating up to 300 shirts to a shelter with Willow Place. And I will also be donating a portion of them to schools within Winnipeg.
When you think about what this could mean for your career as an artist, just to look at this from that other perspective, although it's clear that wasn't your motivation.
Yeah.
But this has happened for you now.
Yeah.
What could this mean?
This is just an exciting opportunity for me to build more meaningful relationships across the country. I want to further my career as an artist, supporting people on their healing journeys. So this is a great step for me.
When did you first start, when did you know you were an artist? It's not like you learn to be an artist, you just are an artist, right?
Yes,
Were you
of
like a
course.
little girl always sketching away? Or
Yes,
what?
absolutely. I was always that little girl, but it was around whenever I was 17 years old. I attended St. John's High School in the North End, Winnipeg, and a teacher there, Mary Zorniak, she actually sat the class down one day and she was like, okay, we're going to be creating Indigenous art, so everybody, get ready, find some inspiration. And it was right from there on where I was like, this is my calling. As a granddaughter of 2 residential school survivors, we didn't have a lot of opportunities for, cultural reclamation. So it was my journey where I was able to start creating and connecting through my culture. And, it started from there.
Do you pencil sketch? Do you paint? What's your primary medium? I mean, you do all
Painting.
of it.
I love painting. That's my absolute favorite medium.
And in terms of reclamation through art, do you like the is it wilderness scenes, or is a lot of your art personal, like what you've talking about today, this image?
Yes, it's very personal to me, and I also am very inspired by the environment, nature, animals, all of that stuff.
How's your community feel about this, Pimachikamak?
I'm very happy. I'm very happy because I've gotten so much love so far from all over coast to coast. So it feels surreal. It feels surreal, and I know that I'm making them proud.
Where will you spend Orange Shirt Day, out of curiosity?
I am actually going to be attending the annual Healing Walk with SCO this year. So if anybody wants to come on down and come support the Healing Walk, I really encourage you. It's going to be a great time.
Obviously, it's on the 30th. Where is it happening? Is it?
So I believe it starts at the Forks.
Yeah,
The
so
Forks.
all the big one that's all through the
Yes.
streets here.
Yeah.
Brooklyn, congratulations on this, and what a beautiful image. And I just love that we now know, everyone that sees these shirts, if they're in the store and they see them, they know that that's your grandparents. Like, how amazing.
Yes, and 100% of the profits do go to charity as well to support the healing of Indigenous survivors and families across the country. So,
what were their names? Do you want to speak their names?
I'm okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I always want to
you.
give the opportunity,
Yeah,
but
of
we
course.
will live their
Yes.
memories through the image.
Yeah.
Beautiful, lovely
Thank
to have you in this Monday
Thank
morning.
you so much for having me.
September 30th, of course, is Truth and Reconciliation Day, Orange Shirt Day, and maybe you'll be wearing one of Brooklyn's designs. Brooklyn, Rudolph Nicholas in studio with us live, the designer of the 2025 National Orange Shirt Day campaign. Her shirts are available. They ended up in stores in late August, so you can find them in Walmarts all across the country. case you're wondering where we're going with this, you haven't entered a dance party. You've entered the music of Dan Snaith of Caribou fame. It's an alter ego of sorts. He releases dance floor ready electronica music. What we're listening to is a recent one from Daphne. This is called Clap Your Hands. And we thought maybe you'd wake up this morning with this tune on CBC. Give you a few more minutes as you're getting ready for work. .23 a.m. is the time right now. It's partly cloudy. There you go. Did you clap your hands while you're getting ready? Making the lunches? You need something to get you going, right? 10 degrees in Winnipeg right now. Our high today is going to be a nice 22 with increasing cloud. There's a 30% chance we're going to see some afternoon showers. It's going to clear tonight, low down to 10. Tomorrow, sunny and 24. Really nice. Remember we said all last week, just wait, hang on, Manitoba. Next week's going to be better. Well, here we are. So tomorrow, 24. We're looking on Wednesday for 26 degrees. That's Winnipeg. Brandon's going to be positively hot today, a high of 25 degrees. With Humidex, it's going to feel like 28 there. Again, though, mainly cloudy, a 30% chance in Brandon. You're going to get some showers this afternoon as well. But tomorrow, sunny and a high of 26, and then hotter on Wednesday, 29. And then in Thompson today, a nice high of 19 degrees with a mix of sun and cloud. And then tonight, it should be calming down to a low of 3 degrees with a little fog overnight. Tomorrow, mix of sun and cloud. Morning fog will dissipate and a high of 16 up in Thompson. Thanks for joining us this morning on the show. If you see any problems in traffic, please let us know. You can always reach us at 788-3093. That's what Daniel did. Reporting to Corey that northbound East Perimeter, there has been, just kind of after Highway 1, there has been a collision. He describes it as a multi-vehicle collision in the far left lane. We don't have any more detail than that, but this is from Daniel, northbound East Perimeter, after Highway 1, a collision there in that lane. So if you have an update on that, or if emergency crews have now arrived on scene, and anything else you can report for us here on the commuter line, let us know. The number to call is 788-3093, 788-3093. Well, it is time now to talk to Scott Reguer, who's here with Morning Sports. Hi, Scott.
Microphone, Scott. It's Monday morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Get that mic on. All right, let's start with tennis. There's a familiar name that came out on top at the U.S. Open.
Yeah, and really, Marcy, whoever prevailed yesterday in New York would have been a familiar name, given it was Jannik Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz doing battle for the $5 million first prize and the world's #1 ranking. It was Alcaraz who prevailed in 4 sets and who will thus garner those enticements I just mentioned. They are the first 2 men in the sport's history, Marcy, to face each other in 3 consecutive Grand Slam finals in the same season, and they're sure to meet many times again. And so Alcaraz says it's important to smell the roses.
Sometimes you just have one day just to enjoy, or not even that. So what I learned is about to take moments of every experience that you're living and enjoy it with my team, with my family, with the people you have around. It's great to take a moment, see the trophy or see what you have done in the tournament, and I appreciate that. That's something that I'm trying to do after every tournament, every match, or every trophy.
Between Alcaraz and Sinner, they've won every Grand Slam now over the past 2 years. And I'd be shocked, Marcy, if someone other than them wins a major in the next 2 years. That's how much better Alcaraz and Sinner are than the rest of the field. Consider this stat. Over the past couple of seasons, Jannik Sinner is 1-7 against Alcaraz. Against everyone else, Sinner has a record of 109 wins and 4 losses.
Wow.
Remarkable.
Let's go to soccer and a controversial World Cup match this afternoon.
Yeah, it's between Italy and Israel, Marcy, although this is being played in Hungary. The Israel-Gaza conflict has forced Israeli national teams to play their home fixtures abroad. There have been growing calls within the sports world not to allow Israel to participate at all. At cycling's Vuelta a España, the finish line of one stage was recently removed because of security concerns around an Israeli-sponsored team. And closer to home, Olympic runner Mo Ahmed is among those who've signed a petition asking that a Davis Cup tennis match between Israel and Canada in Halifax this week be called down. Israeli soccer coach Ran Ben Shimon was asked how he and his players are dealing with all this.
I believe that I'm a football coach, I came here to play football against the national team of Italy, and I'm standing behind my country. I never look at the people that speaking in front of me about the opinion they just said. I'm looking who is standing behind me. And this is our people. We are playing for them to make them joyful. And this is the only thing I have to say to you about it.
Despite their displacement, Israel have won 3 out of 4 of their qualifiers so far, and with a victory today over the Italians, Marcy, will be in a very strong position to gain a berth in next summer's World Cup.
And finally, speaking of World Cups, there's good news for Canada in rugby's version of the tournament, right?
On a couple of fronts, actually, yeah. Canada's men, Marcy, have qualified for the 2027 World Cup after the U.S. lost its qualifier yesterday. And at the Women's World Cup being held in England right now, Canada continues to excel. They throttled Scotland over the weekend. They're undefeated and are through to the quarterfinals where they will face Australia. And if you've been watching this tournament, you may have noticed some players' mouth guards flashing red at times. This is a groundbreaking new technology to help reduce head injuries. Lindsay Starling is the Science and Medical Manager for World Rugby.
The mouthguard lighting up immediately on impact means that there is no delay to the player being seen, and it also creates more awareness amongst players, amongst fans, amongst match officials, that they can see that the players had a suspected head knock. And on the longer term, it builds up a picture of head impact that a player sustains throughout their career, which can then be used to help better look after the brains of our players.
It'll be interesting, Marcy, to see whether these mouth guards will be used at the Men's World Cup of Rugby in 2027 and maybe even in other contact sports like football. And on that note, just a quick word about the Bombers, who most of our listeners will know what happened Saturday, losing that Banjo Bowl and losing ground in the West as a result. 6-6. And you know what? Edmonton and BC just behind them at 5-7. Yeah, this isn't an optimum set of circumstances, nor is this. Zach Collaros came out early with that high hit to the head in the game on Saturday. No update yet, but possibly word we're hoping later today.
All right, well, we'll be watching that. All right, thank you.
You bet.
A lot of disappointment on Saturday. Let's look at what's coming up, ahead on the program. We have a community report from our community reporter, Shanley Vidal. We are going to be hearing how some of those bears on Broadway are coming out of hibernation. We're going to hear how some of the bears that you might have seen around town, some 60 plus of them, are getting new coats. An artist actually has been painting them. You might have noticed this. So stay tuned. That's coming up after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, it is 10 degrees, but we are going to soar above seasonal, in fact, the entire week. Today's high 22 with increasing clouds and a very slight chance of an afternoon shower. Some parents in Brandon say they feel reassured about their children's safety as students head back to class this year. Last June, a black student at Neelan High School was seriously injured in a sword attack. Now, new Safe Schools advisory committees will be in every school, coordinating advice on safety strategies and policies. Emmanuel Ahoniku chairs the Umu Igbo Brandon Association. He says while the attack left families shaken, the response from the division, police, and the city has helped to rebuild confidence.
The key thing is the belief in the system, the trust in the system. So the apprehension is there, but the belief has to be bigger than the fear.
Ahoniku, who has 3 children in the division, says he appreciates the strong messages about unity and saying no to racism. It is the 3rd day of a community-wide search for a missing woman in Wasagamak First Nation. 31-year-old Roxanne Little was last seen August 22nd at her uncle's home where she stayed in the Island Lake community. Over the weekend, Wasagamak and Garden Hill led house-to-house searches, Wasagamak only accessible by boat and air at this time of year. Her uncle, Alfred Harper, says she hasn't been active on social media, adding it is unlike her to not come home after a couple of days. He says RCMP arrived Sunday to join search teams from Wasagamak and Garden Hill. Roxanne is 5'2", slim build with long black hair. You can see her photo up on our website. If you know anything about where she might be, call police. Willard Reeves says he can bring the Manitoba Liberals back to official party status. The 66-year-old has announced he will run for party leader, but he hasn't identified where he'll try to win a seat. The former Winnipeg Blue Bombers star says he wants to make a difference in people's lives.
I want to bring everybody together, all stakeholders. We need to change the way we do our politics. We need to stop opposing everything that someone brings up and work together to get a solution.
Reeves has been the party's deputy leader from fall of 2023 to June of 2024. Cindy Lamoureux, the lone Liberal MLA, has been serving as interim leader. She announced earlier this summer she would not be seeking the leadership. Christopher Adams, adjunct political studies professor at the University of Manitoba, says it makes sense for Willard Reeves to take a run at the leadership. He says Reeves has become well known after a close race in the by-election against Obby Khan in Fort White and then his run in the general election.
Clearly, he's got the political bug, right? I mean, he's interested in politics. He's had an opportunity to, knock on doors and have a fairly good profile in the provincial party.
Adams says the one thing against Reeve is that he's never held a seat in the legislature or on city council or parliament. 6 people are dead after 2 gunmen opened fire today on a bus stop in Jerusalem. More than a dozen people are injured, police saying 6 in serious condition. Police say the attackers, who have yet to be identified, were shot and killed on the scene. The shooting took place at a major intersection on a road leading to Jewish settlements located in East Jerusalem. Here is Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Netanyahu says the murders do not weaken us, they only strengthen our determination. There's been no claim of responsibility, but Hamas has praised the gunmen, saying their actions are, quote, a natural response to the occupation's crimes against our people. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 8. Federal, provincial, and territorial ministers of agriculture from across Canada are meeting in Winnipeg this week. The annual conference comes as Canadian canola producers feel the impact of a punishing 75.8% tariff slapped on by China last month. The federal government pledged $370 million in incentives to help canola farmers last week. Heath MacDonald is Canada's agriculture minister.
This is just a start. This isn't the final destination that we're going to be at. I know you're stressed. You need to make business decisions. This is your livelihood and what you're hoping to pass along to the next generation.
McDonald's and Manitoba's Agriculture Minister Ron Kostishin met with stakeholders in the sector yesterday. The conference wraps up tomorrow. An owner of a southern Manitoba pumpkin patch says she is overwhelmed with joy and her heart is full. About 100 volunteers showed up to help Melody Schwabe pick pumpkins and put them in bins on her family farm before an early frost came during the weekend. Schwabe had posted a video in tears about potentially losing her crop.
I just had people reaching out, wanting to come and help. And as we were trying to pick and get everything off on Friday, people just kept showing up. Some people were bringing food with them and drinks for people, coffee.
Most of the farm's pumpkins would have been killed off if that second frost hit them Saturday, wiping out about 3/4 of the family's income. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
So how is the weather for schoolie number 5, Abby?
We're going to see clouds build. However, we're starting with, on the cool front across most of the regions today. But we'll see some cloudy conditions. And then we get to warm up to the 20s. Winnipeg at this time, 10 degrees, partly cloudy outside. We have mild breeze coming from the south. Expect mainly partly cloudy conditions to build through the day. We do have a slim chance of showers somewhere in between, and then we'll see highs around 22 degrees. In the Pembina Valley region, it's similar to Winnipeg, around 7-8 degrees in some spots. Gentle southern breeze. The skies will trend cloudier in that part of the province with a slim chance of showers passing in the afternoon period, and highs will climb to around 22, 23, depending on where you are in the Pembina Valley region. And of course, some fog patches would build overnight, but that should clear tomorrow morning. Out in the Westman region, from Brandon all the way down to Verdun, Surrey and surrounding areas, we're looking at 6 degrees. The air is a bit cooler this morning, just a shy high around the high of teens later in the day, but we're seeing 6 degrees in that part of the province. In the Parkland region, from Dauphin all the way down to Riding Mountain and surrounding areas, we're looking at temperatures around 10 degrees at this time. It is clear out there, light west-southwest breeze. The day will grow more cloudy as you get into your day. We'll see a slim chance of showers late in the morning or even into the afternoon period, and we'll see temperatures climb to the mid-20s later in the day. In the Interlake region, Gimli is currently around 10 degrees. Cloudy conditions also we're seeing. Expect more cloudy conditions to roll your way. A slim chance of showers. Temperature will get to 23. In the northern part of the province, the Pau, Flin-Flon surrounding areas, we're looking at 10, 12 degrees in those regions. We do have light rain falling there right now. Temperature will only get to 21 for that part of the province. Thompson, good morning. You are at 7 degrees, partly cloudy conditions with soft southern breeze. Expect a mix of sun and clouds, high close to 19 degrees. And then for Churchill and the York region, we're looking at you're waking up to around 6 degrees this morning. Cloudy skies, a mild, southeasterly winds in that part of the province. There's a better chance of showers heading your way this afternoon. Highs will be quite cool, around 11 degrees. So it's more like a cloudy conditions, and the sun would make its appearance to warm things up to the 20s in most of the regions. Winnipeg right now, 10 degrees, partly cloudy outside.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey's in to talk about the commute. Any update on what Daniel called about?
Haven't heard any major updates, but what Daniel did call about earlier is about a collision northbound East Perimeter just after Highway number 1. So he said actually if you're turning off of Highway number 1 onto the northbound East Perimeter there, it kind of like catches you off guard because it's right there. But if you're coming straight up on the perimeter as well, traffic is starting to back up. So look out for that. That's northbound East Perimeter. In the left lane, there's been a multi-vehicle collision, says Daniel. Also got a call from Jason, who's let me know that the Riverwalk underneath the Donald Street Bridge, also known as the Midtown Bridge, is actually closed right now. So if that's part of your cycling commute, your walking commute, kind of heading to or from the Forks area there, along the Assiniboine River, that part of the Riverwalk is closed right now. Looks like they're doing some sort of bridge work as well. So that's completely closed. If you have any other updates, be like Jason, be like Daniel. If you're walking, biking, driving, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. We'd love to get some updates on particularly what's happening on the northbound East Perimeter there. 204-788-3093.
Do you remember in 2005 when all the bears on Broadway went up?
Yeah. I remember, I was like, I would take the way to get to school every day and be like, oh, look at all the bears.
Yeah, there were a lot of them. Mm-hmm. So this was part of an art installation, if you don't recall this, in Winnipeg. It was 2005. It was all through Memorial Park, Bears on Broadway. There were 67 of them at that time, so you couldn't miss them that were commissioned. Today, 31 remain, and they're getting a bearific makeover. Or maybe you've spotted some of them already. They still are around town. So they moved after the initial art installation was around Broadway. They're these big white concrete bears across various locations, and they've been dotted there over the past 2 decades. But now they're going to look a little different again because some of those bear statues have gotten a fresh coat of paint and in some cases a fresh new look. CBC Manitoba community reporter Shanley Vidal has more.
The bear's head is like the darkest part.
It
like
gets darker right at the top, so it's on like the night skies up here. And there's constellations up by his face. And then because I covered out his face, I decided to add a polar bear head on the back.
I gave it a prime to begin with, and after that I got right into painting.
Artist Rachel Lancaster has just spruced up another of the former Bears on Broadway. It's the 4th one she's repainted, and it sits outside the Access Credit Union in Gimli. It's covered in shades of pink, purple, blue, and green to resemble the northern lights across a line of trees.
I start with my lightest color and I move towards my darkest color, and I never change my roller. I did it all with a roller. So you just keep rolling and blending and rolling and blending. So I don't know actually what the original paint job was on this. I did have a couple people who passed me and they said, we think it was a landscape, but about 6 or 7 years ago, this bear was just painted white. I guess it was looking very, very rough.
Bears on Broadway took place 20 years ago as part of a campaign for Cancer Care Manitoba. More than 60 concrete bears were sponsored and given themed paint jobs. Since then, most of the bears have moved on to new locations.
Our polar bears have traveled south to Broadway.
I remember when they first hit Broadway, we went down to visit them with like my friends and I. We ran up and down the street, we took pictures of all these bears. I remember it being a real moment in time and people were excited about them. I was excited about them. The first bear that I was asked to restore was the blue bomber bear. This bear is in Winnipeg and it is the Lyle Bauer bear. So I mimicked the original design that was underneath, just freshened the whole thing up. It had a big concrete football that was attached to its hand, and then it was wearing like a concrete helmet. That had the most amount of damage to it, so there was some concrete structural repairs to do, and there was some cracking on the bear.
Most of Rachel Lancaster's commissions are for custom murals. This colorful one at Nick's Inn draws inspiration from the pop culture of the 1950s. That Headingley restaurant is also where you can find the second bear Lancaster restored.
I think he was just wearing like an apron and it said Nick's Inn on it. So he was pretty simple, but again, that was great artwork. I did see underneath the original coat, I think he was wearing some sort of a jersey from what I could tell. There was no way to repair the original image underneath. It was just too much damage. It was too far gone. So because Nick's Inn is a drive-through diner, I went with a Hawaiian shirt and in like flowers mixed with burgers and French fries. And for a while, Nick's Inn was like, tag us in a photo and you can get a little deal on your food. There was the whole thing with the bear. And you can actually see on all of the bears that I go and repaint, there's like a wear mark where people stand and take photos of the bears. I think every time I do another bear, somebody sees it and it just keeps the ball rolling. Bear number 3 is at Winpack. That one had kind of more like a northern scene to it. There was some elk, a big blue sky, and underneath they actually had built onto the concrete, they had little 3D animals. That one didn't need too much structural repair, so I was able to just go in, clean off any of the loose flaking paint, prime any of the spots that you could see bare concrete, and then I matched all of the artwork as best I could to what was underneath. So it was just like giving it a fresh facelift.
How does it feel to be giving new life to, this bear and some of the other bears that were part of Bears on Broadway?
I feel very honored. This was such an honor to be asked to do this. I feel like it's giving life to art history here in Winnipeg and the surrounding areas.
Shannalee Vidal, CBC News, Gimli.
By the way, each of those concrete bears weighs in at around 8,000 pounds.
We carry a world of information in our pockets because we want to know. Breaking news that shapes our world. Staying on top of stories around the globe. And connected close to home. It's news you can trust. Delivered when you want and where you want. On Canada's News app. Now with CBC Radio 1, local and live. Download the CBC News app for free.
7:45 a.m. Monday morning. Well, what did you do this weekend? Did you stay in a hotel? Did you stay overnight? Did you stay just for the day? There's a reason I'm asking this. If you're a movie theater owner and you have 5 people buy tickets for the late show, you don't make money on the empty seats. Same as for airplanes when they fly half full. The marketing term for this is perishability. The goal for businesses like these is to fill up every day, all day. But what if you're a hotel? No one really needs a room during the day. Or do they?
Last February, Rhea Kapler got up early to catch a flight to Peru. Flying from Winnipeg to South America isn't straightforward. She had to connect through Toronto. But there, a winter storm delayed her flight by hours. So there she was, stuck at 7 a.m.
And also at that time, the airport is pretty packed. People will just lie down on benches and chairs trying to get some sleep.
That's when her husband suggested booking a room in a nearby hotel just for a few hours. Check in that morning, leave that afternoon.
I remember the feeling when I got into the room. I was like, finally, I can get to rest after all those chaos that's going on at the airport.
Booking a hotel room just for the day is now more possible than ever thanks to apps like Hotels by Day and Napper. They connect you with hotels willing to give you a day rate at about half the price of an overnight stay. Now, some hotels have always rented by the hour, the old no-tell motel, but they weren't the kind of places you'd take your family.
Yeah, well, listen, it was a taboo thing, if we go back even 15, 20 years ago, where any hotel that was renting for an hour was certainly not a premium hotel.
But Kevin Porter says times have changed. He's the general manager of the 4-star Toronto Don Valley Hotel and Suites. They get more than 100 day-use bookings a week. And sure, some people are still looking for a little romance in the afternoon, but most of his customers are people who work at home, just desperate for a change of scenery. Others are looking for a mini vacation, a way to enjoy everything a hotel has to offer in their own city.
And you can sit and relax. You could have a nap. You could have a lunch. You could go to a pool. You could have a spa treatment. There are all kinds of things that you can do.
Kevin's clients book through the app Dayuse. It's one of the most popular on the market. It has 9,000 hotels signed up around the world. Yves Pouliot is the company's North American director. He says making use of a hotel's downtime is just good business. Even though guests pay less compared to an overnight stay, daytime customers spend in other ways, on things like pedicures and room service.
People that are using your hotel during the day are active. They will want to enjoy the space, and it's proven that their average bill will be higher than someone that just stay there to sleep.
Yves says the Dayuse app is seeing a growing number of customers, particularly people booking hotel rooms in the same city they live in. But other industry experts say the most popular Dayuse hotels continue to be around airports, like the one Rhea Kapler booked into on her way to Peru. And now that she's tried it, she says a little daycation at home in Winnipeg could be in her future.
A few hotels here that I know they have like good amenities, good service. So I'm like, just want to go there for the day to relax. I think, yeah, for sure, I would do that.
For The Cost of Living, I'm Blair Sanderson.
Kind of like that idea. I mean, why not, right? 10 to 8, Monday morning. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is CBC. You're on 89.3 FM this morning or watching on YouTube. And still ahead on the program, we are going to be hearing more about Ken Dryden. We are going to hear from a Lorette, Manitoba woman who's a longtime friend of the now late NHL great and goaltender and former cabinet minister Ken Dryden. So that's coming up live after 8 o'clock. Right now, a couple traffic things to take care of. Chris called the commuter line southbound Lagimodiere before the overpass before Dougal to Semis, stopped in the curb lane, has its four ways on, so stay left there. Also, we have the northbound East Perimeter, still could be an issue, a collision there just after Highway 1, multi-vehicle, we were told far left lane, no more word at this hour. Also, the Riverwalk underneath the Donald Street Bridge is closed. So if you are walking or biking, note that if you use that area. 788-3093 is where you can reach Corey if you need to. We've got some sunshine coming into the downtown right now, and it's 10 degrees. Well, next on the show, it's been a career of firsts for my next guest, Stacey Soldier. Stacey's a lawyer from Swan Lake First Nation. She was the first person in her family to attend university, she says. She graduated from the Faculty of Law at the University of Manitoba. Now, she is the president of the Manitoba Bar Association. She becomes the first Indigenous woman to hold the title. And she joins me now via Zoom to talk about it. Good morning.
Good morning. It's an honor to be here to speak with you.
How do you feel about the I would call it an honor, but I mean, you worked for this too. So I want to make sure that everybody like hears that too. How proud of you are you of yourself on achieving this?
Well, thank you for acknowledging that because I did work really hard to be here. And I am very excited for this opportunity to represent my profession, but also represent my home community of Swan Lake First Nation, as well as my adopted home community of Thompson, Manitoba, where I grew up.
What would it have meant to you if you think back to see an Indigenous woman in this position when you were just starting out?
Well, I go back to when I was thinking about applying to law school, and I think I only told my parents because I didn't know any lawyers. I didn't know anybody who worked at the court staff. And to me, it was almost this, I don't want to say impossible dream because not everything is always possible, but I didn't have the same sort of privilege that other people have who go to law school, who have parents or family members. It was just me on my own coming up with this idea and going ahead and trying to do it. And now I think the big change is that we see how many Indigenous students are at the law school and how our profession is growing. And I'm almost really envious because I remember the insecurity that I had and the imposter syndrome of who do you think you are applying to law school? You're not going to belong there. So it's quite a difference. And I just remember that feeling of not wanting to tell people in case I did get that message that this is not something you should do. This is not somewhere where you belong.
It's interesting because I know that now you also mentor as well law students in their different years. You've had some experience with that, but for you, you described it as a lonely feeling, I understand, when you were in school.
Oh, absolutely. Because in terms of law school, by the time I finished, I had one other good friend who's my colleague here. There was another Indigenous student who was in other sections and other classes, and some other Métis students, and we would try to get together and talk. But we really didn't have a lot of support in terms of outside in the community. Now, when I see the MILSA organization, so the Manitoba Indigenous Law Students Association, they are just an amazing group of students. They support each other, they hype each other up. They are such a strong organization. And one of the things that they do, and I certainly am along for the ride, is that outreach to university students and high school students. They put on with the pre-law program as well as another racialized group program organization, See Yourself Here event. And so it invites people who perhaps are not in the traditional stream of coming to law school to come to an event, to talk to people, to have a chance to network and speak to people about the process of applying to law school. So that kind of thing is very important to me, just remembering my own experience of thinking I wanted to go to law school and not having anybody to talk to.
You had another experience, I understand, that's really stayed with you. A client you had early on in your career that was surprised to see an Indigenous female lawyer. What was that like? I think it was maybe a 13-year-old girl. The story that I've heard you share? Yeah.
Yes, that's right. I was a first-year lawyer and I was meeting with her and her guardian. I'm not sure if it was a social worker or a parent or a foster parent. And we were in one of the courtroom rooms, interview rooms. And I was just going over my usual spiel of this is what happens at court and this is what you can expect. And she didn't even seem to be really listening. She was staring at me and she asked if she could ask me a question. And I said, oh, sure. Thinking she'd be asking like, why do we have to be up here at 9 o'clock in the morning for court? Why is it so early? But what she said was, are you a Native lady? Like just so full of doubt but wanting to know the answer. And I said, oh yeah, yes, I am. And she kind of sat back and said, I didn't know Native ladies were allowed to be lawyers. And like just in that moment, it really crystallized something that the late Murray Sinclair had told me when I was a law student. is that my presence is going to be meaningful for clients who come to the court and are afraid and are unsure. And because it's such a foreign system to many Indigenous people in this province and certainly in this country. And I was told after by her guardian that after she left courtroom, she was just pleased as a punch, and she was telling everybody that she came across that she had an Indigenous lady as her lawyer. And that I take that responsibility very, very seriously in terms of representing my Anishinaabe community, not just in the legal profession, but to the world as well.
Just last briefly, I'm curious what your family has to say about your journey and your success in your career.
Well, if you ask my mom, she's almost nonchalant because from her perspective, she says, well, of course I expected this. Of course you were going to be on this path, but very, very proud nonetheless.
Thank you very much for being with us, Stacey Soldier, and for telling us about some of where you've come from and what you're thinking about as you take on the role as the president of the Manitoba Bar Association. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is Stacey Soldier with us. As I mentioned on the way in, she will be the first Indigenous woman to hold that title and position. Heather Wells is in now with our headlines.
Willard Reeves says he can bring the Manitoba Liberals back to official party status. Reeves announcing he will run for party leader. The former Winnipeg Blue Bomber star says politicians need to stop opposing everything and work together to find solutions. Federal and provincial, as well as territorial ministers of agriculture from across Canada are meeting in Winnipeg this week. They're touring farms and meeting with people involved in agriculture. The annual conference comes as Canadian canola producers feel the impact of a punishing 75.8% tariff slapped on by China last month. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 8:30.
Thanks, Heather.
Thanks.
10 degrees, partly cloudy, the high 22. Still ahead, nearly 3,000 bikes are stolen in Winnipeg every year. We're going to ask a man who calls himself the bike theft detective what happens to bikes once they're stolen and why some end up in different provinces in a matter of days. He helps other cities with these issues. He is in Vancouver. We'll talk to him after 8, and we'll also talk to someone that was close with Ken Dryden as Canada continues to remember.
Today on Q.
I'm Talia Schlenger in for Tom Power. Growing up with her mother and 4 sisters, Jen Sukfung Lee became fascinated with female relationships. In her new novel, Jen turns that fascination into a ghost story and asks if you can ever really outrun your family history.
The women are the ones who carry all the stories, the traumas, the hurts, and the memories.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We carry a world of information in our pockets because we want to know. It's news you can trust, delivered when you want and where you want on Canada's News app. Now with CBC Radio 1, local and live. Download the CBC News app for free.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Israel's foreign minister says at least 6 people have been killed in a shooting attack in Jerusalem. Ambulances rushed to the scene in the north of the city. Several other people have been injured, and some of them are reportedly in serious condition. The CBC's Sasha Petrusik is in Jerusalem. And Sasha, what more do we know?
This happened at a big traffic intersection, a transportation hub at the north end of Jerusalem at the end of morning rush hour. So a lot of people there waiting for buses to go into the West Bank, into Jerusalem, and into Tel Aviv. 2 men dressed in black arrived in a car and boarded a bus that had just arrived. That bus was packed, according to eyewitnesses, and they started shooting. This, of course, set off a panic. A lot of people were injured. At some point, police arrived, security forces arrived, and the 2 men were neutralized, as they say here, meaning they were shot and killed. Police have sealed off a number of villages in the West Bank, which is not far from that spot, and have started searching those areas as well as searching the scene of the crime.
What other reaction are you seeing?
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu arrived at the scene of the attack fairly quickly. He made a statement saying that we are at war against terror on several fronts. He said, we will destroy Hamas and free our hostages. Unfortunately, he said, we were not able to prevent this morning's attack. There was a statement from Hamas this morning as well. They do not take responsibility for the attack, but they did praise the two attackers as heroic. They said this was a natural response to Israel's actions in Gaza and especially in the West Bank.
Thank you, Sasha.
My pleasure.
The CBC's Sasha Petrusik in Jerusalem. Doctors in Nepal say at least 11 people have been killed in protests outside the country's parliament. Tens of thousands of people are in Kathmandu criticizing the government's decision to block most social media. Police fired tear gas, rubber bullets, and water cannons, but the large crowd pushed through barbed wire and forced riot officers to retreat within the parliament buildings. The situation is still tense. Nepal's government says it is imposing a curfew. Nepal has blocked about 24 social networking sites, including Facebook, X, and YouTube. Protesters call it censorship, but the government says those companies ignored orders to officially register in the country. Sepsis is one of the leading causes of death worldwide, including here in Canada. It can be difficult to detect, and doctors say early treatment is crucial. But as CBC's Sarah McMillan reports, new research shows gaps in policies and training standards.
Their inaction cost us, our whole family, everything.
Gurinder Sidhu's life was turned upside down when his wife died in June from septic shock days after giving birth at a Mississauga, Ontario hospital. Sidhu believes his wife's death could have been prevented if hospital staff had recognized early signs of sepsis.
Now I learned that nothing was normal about those symptoms.
The hospital hasn't commented on this case, citing patient privacy, but says it has a thorough review process. Since his wife's death, Sidhu has been advocating for new sepsis policies in hospitals across Ontario. The province doesn't have specific sepsis guidelines, and new research highlights that it's not alone.
We found that there were pretty serious gaps.
Dr. Kelly Barrett is one of the researchers who looked at policies and training across the country. The research is under review and is forthcoming in the Canadian Journal of Anesthesia. Some provinces, like BC and Saskatchewan, do have sepsis policies, but most do not. The research also highlights gaps in training. McMaster University PhD candidate Fatima Sheikh is one of the other research authors. She points to other countries like the UK and Australia that have created national action plans.
Some of the outcomes that are starting to get reported are increased or better detection of sepsis, reduced healthcare costs, and also reduced sepsis-related mortality.
She says Canada needs a plan too. A spokesperson for the Public Health Agency of Canada said they weren't able to provide comment by our deadline. Sarah McMillan, CBC News, Toronto.
Prime Minister Mark Carney's government is introducing new tariff relief measures for Canadians, starting today with Industry Minister Melanie Joly in Quebec. She will highlight support for the aluminum industry there. Then Carney will make an announcement for affected industries in Atlantic Canada. And later, Energy Minister Tim Hodgson will speak in BC. A judge in Australia has sentenced a triple murderer to life in prison. Erin Patterson was convicted in July of killing 3 relatives in 2023. She was also convicted of attempting to murder a 4th person. She served them a meal of beef Wellington laced with poisonous mushrooms. Justice Christopher Beale says her crimes were an enormous betrayal of trust.
The devastating impact of your crimes is not limited to your direct victims. You inflicted untold suffering on your own children, whom you robbed of their beloved grandparents. Your failure to exhibit any remorse pours salt into all the victims' wounds. The gravity of your offending warrants the imposition of the maximum penalties for your crimes.
Patterson will not be eligible for parole for 33 years, and she will be in her mid-80s by then. WestJet says it is fully cooperating with local authorities in St. Martin. One of its planes landed hard on the Caribbean Islands runway yesterday afternoon. A wing was damaged. Passengers were evacuated from the plane on the runway. And CBC's Sarah Reed has more details.
sounds on board the WestJet flight after one of the plane's landing gear collapsed at Princess Juliana International Airport in St. Martin. The hard landing saw the right wing of the plane hit the runway, leading emergency crews to immediately evacuate all 164 passengers, none of who were injured.
Then they're going to get the cockpit voice recorder tape. It could be pilot error and it could be totally mechanical error. But at any rate, it wasn't supposed to happen the way it did.
Keith Mackey is an aviation safety consultant and says it's hard to say what caused the incident.
Well, we don't know whether it was a hard landing or it could have been a mechanical issue with the gear. But at any rate, the right landing gear collapsed and dropped the wingtip to the ground. So consequently, they had to use the emergency slides to evacuate the airplane.
But Mackey adds landing at that airport is challenging, even at the best of times.
The runway is 7,500 feet long, and it's surrounded by hills. So it isn't a place for a novice.
With the damaged plane now sitting on the runway, the airport says it will remain closed until Monday afternoon. The incident will now be investigated by the Dutch Safety Board, and experts say Canada's Transportation Safety Board will also be involved. Sarah Reid, CBC News, Edmonton.
Canadian soccer phenom Olivia Smith is turning heads on the international pitch. The 21-year-old from Whitby, Ontario, made her debut with London's Arsenal Football Club. Not only did she score a goal, but she was named Player of the Match. Smith is also the first women's soccer player to receive a transfer fee of more than £1 million. She spoke to the CBC's Briar Stewart.
The shot is brilliant!
In front of a crowd of thousands at London's Emirates Stadium, Olivia Smith sent the ball into the top corner of the net, scoring her first goal for Arsenal in England's Women's Super League.
No sign of being affected by the big price tag.
By that he means Smith was already centre stage. In July, Arsenal paid more than £1 million, the equivalent of about 1.8 million Canadian dollars, to secure her from her previous club, Liverpool. At the time, it was the most expensive transfer fee ever in women's soccer. In an interview with CBC News, Smith said she tries not to focus on the numbers.
I'm just focused on the present, learning and growing from my teammates and the people around me.
What about the attention?
You know, it can be overwhelming sometimes, if I'm being honest. Like, I think as an athlete, the main thing you want to do is focus on your craft.
Smith started playing soccer at just 3 years old. At age 15, she became the youngest player to lace up with Canada's national women's soccer team. She told CBC News that she hopes to be a role model and wants to help bring the women's game more in line with the men's.
Obviously, if you look on the men's side, what the men are going for and what we were going for maybe a couple years ago, there's just so much of a gap. And I think we're not that close to it now, but I mean, I think we'll get there with the way that the trajectory is going for women's football.
And she's also set her eyes on playing for Canada at the World Cup and at the Olympics in 2028. Briar Stewart, CBC News, London.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. If you like the World Report podcast, please follow us and tell a friend. It helps spread the word. I'm Marcia Young.
Back at school for everyone. All divisions back in this morning across Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining us and making time on your busy morning to be with CBC. This is Information Radio, 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and YouTube. This half hour on the program, we're talking about bike theft. Nearly 3,000 bikes are stolen in Winnipeg every year. We'll ask a man who calls himself the bike theft detective about what happens to bikes once they're stolen and why some end up in different provinces in a matter of days. He advises cities on what to do about bike theft. He is in Vancouver. We're going to talk to him this half hour on the show. Also, we're going to hear from a woman from Lorette, Manitoba, who's a longtime friend of the now late NHL goaltender and politician Ken Dryden. Ken Dryden passed away. He was 78, and we'll get some more remembrances as they continue to come in. But this from a Manitoba perspective. Stay tuned. First, though, Heather Wells is in with Manitoba Headlines. Hi there.
Hi, good morning. Well, it is the third day of a community-wide search for a missing woman in Wasagamak First Nation. 31-year-old Roxanne Little was last seen August 22nd at her uncle's home. That is where she stayed in the Island Lake community. Over the weekend, Wasagamak and Garden Hill led house-to-house searches. As Brandon students head back to class, some parents say they feel reassured by new safety measures. Last June, a black student at Neelan High School was seriously injured in a sword attack. Emmanuel Honiku, who has 3 children in the division, says he appreciates the strong messages about unity and saying no to racism. We're going to hear more in our next local news coming up at 8:30.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Thanks.
Let's get into the weather now with Abby Adiemi.
10 degrees in Winnipeg, still partly cloudy outside. The sun just peeking through as the day goes on. These cloudy conditions will struggle with the sun. We should see a slim chance of showers by the noon period. Then we start to warm up to around 22 degrees. Light breeze coming from the south will make it feel mild and comfortable. Tonight we'll see clear skies, and then some fog would develop overnight, but that should go as we get to tomorrow morning when we'll see more sunshine. Across the south, we're seeing temperatures hover between 8 and 11 degrees from the Pembina Valley region all the way down to the Interlake regions. Mostly cloudy skies we'll see. The sun will also make appearance, a slim chance of showers in all those regions. Highs will be around 22 to 25 degrees. While up north, current temperatures, we're citing 7 degrees in some areas, 12 degrees in some areas, partly cloudy conditions, a few passing showers, and highs will stay more like cooler than the south. We'll see 11 to 21 degrees. So overall, Marcy, it's going to be mainly cloudy conditions, but it will be mild. Temperatures will be between 22 and 25 in the south today.
I say on behalf of everyone, woohoo! At least in Winnipeg, right? Compared to last week?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, let's go to Corey Funk, who's here to talk about the commute. I got startled there because I sounded exactly like my mother for a second. That's happening to me. How's the commute?
Yeah, got a call from Chris with an update on that collision on the northbound east perimeter. So he says there's now emergency vehicles on scene. So that's on the northbound east perimeter, just kind of north of the turnoff to the number 1 there. So he says there's emergency vehicles on scene, tow trucks as well, but it's very slow going as folks do their best, he says, to zipper merge around that and keep right. But it's still very slow going on the northbound east perimeter, just after highway number 1. As well, got a couple other updates from folks. Another Chris phone to say southbound La Jamaudière, there was a semi with its 4 ways flashing, so might still be stalled. This is about half an hour or so ago, might still be an issue, might not. Going southbound just before the overpass that takes you to Dougal Road there. So heads up, that might cause some backups as well. Sarah called to say northbound Osborne, right around Confusion Corner there, Glasgow, is down to 1 lane. Actually going both ways, northbound and southbound. You kind of lose your median lanes there due to construction, it seems. So it's getting really backed up around there as well. And finally, Jason, who said if you're cycling, plan to take the Riverwalk at all today, it's actually closed right at the Donald Street Bridge. Looks like there's construction going on. They've actually closed the Riverwalk right under the bridge there. So heads up that you can't get through there if you're going to or from the Forks, which is a lot of people take that to get there. If you see anything else going on, though, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
Well, 2 weeks ago, Winnipeg police raided a homeless encampment in Point Douglas where officers retrieved 5 bikes and more than 100 parts. Their search revealed a wooden structure along Waterfront Drive that was being used as a chop shop. The city says some 3,000 bikes are stolen every year, and Councillor Marcus Chambers, chair of the Winnipeg Police Board, has called it a problem of epidemic proportions, was his quote. CBC's been checking with cyclists and security experts about how the city should crack down on bike theft. Rob Brunt is our next guest. He's also known as the bike theft detective. He's the chief outreach officer for something called 529 Garage in Vancouver. He joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning.
What's 529 Garage?
529 Garage is a digital registration and recovery system designed by the inventor of Xbox, Jay Allard.
And why is it important, that registration system, when it comes to bike theft, in your view?
So a little background on me. I was a policeman in Vancouver, Canada for 30 years. I'd been on the street for 25 years, and I'd been working in the downtown east side, one of the poorest zip codes or postal codes in Canada. But I was running into these bicycles, and I was an avid cyclist. I was a cyclist myself. And so my work family, the people I policed, they would be riding bicycles that, well, first of all, I couldn't afford. So there's a little bit of cycle envy there. And then secondly, because I worked with these individuals, property crime offenders every day, I knew, unfortunately, that they didn't have a legitimate means to come up with that kind of money. And so I'd run into, Frank, and I'd be like, Frank, you'd be riding a $5,000 bike. I'd be, Frank, come on over here. He'd be like, what's going on, Rob? I'm like, where'd you get the bike from? He's like, I got it from Tony. I'm like, you didn't get it from Tony because Tony's been in jail for 6 months. And he'd be like, well, Rob, I found it. So back before I started, before we brought 5 to 9 to Vancouver, our only means as a police officer was I'd flip the bike over and I'd run it on CPIC, the Canadian Police Information Computer. And so if I typed in a 0 and it was an O, or a 1 and it was an L, it wouldn't give me back the information. So we were seizing all these bikes. So in 2015, Vancouver was seizing about 3,600 bikes, but only 1% of them were going back to their owners. And so long story short, I ran into the inventor of Xbox. He had his bike stolen in Seattle. He was a little perturbed at the lack of computer skills or databases for police to search these bicycles. And so he took it upon himself to write some software and some apps, and out came Project 5 to 9. So we now have, if you register your bicycle, download the app for free, the police now have a tool to be able to search the database and find your bicycle and get it back to you.
Now, serial numbers are key to this, I understand. I guess I wonder whether or not a serial number can be filed off.
So the problem with serial numbers is a bicycle is the only form of transportation that doesn't have a VIN on it. Your car, motorcycles, skidoos, planes, helicopters, everything else that we use for transportation is a VIN. And I'm not sure why, but bicycles seem to have escaped of having some sort of numbering system that is worldwide. So you can flip over a bicycle, and so the thieves know that, because there's no industry standard, thieves don't even bother generally. I think, in my 30-year career, I saw maybe 3 or 4 bicycles with the serial numbers filed off, because the crooks know that the serial number is the police have no way to see that serial number connect to an owner. So why would they take it off?
Got it. So it's still a valuable tool. So this helps people. If you have a serial number, then you can register it, then you're in the system. If you don't have a serial number, can you register it anyway?
Yes. But the secret sauce, so you download the app. The really clever thing I like about 5 to 9 is there's no personal information taken. It can run off your email address. And so you're not giving the police your home address, your next of kin, your blood type, etc. You're just taking some pictures of your bicycle, you with the bicycle, side of the bicycle, try to enter try to find that serial number, enter that, take a picture of that. But the secret sauce to 5 to 9 is the ability to add what we call a Project 5 to 9 shield, which is a tamper-proof sticker that has 7 characters on it, just like a license plate, that are unique to that bicycle. And it also has a QR code on it. And so you register your bike. So now I walk into my, the downtown Starbucks in Winnipeg. I'm going to go get my Frappuccino. I line up, come back out. I've unfortunately used a cable lock. The lock is cut, bicycle's gone. Now I can pull out the app and use it to send out like an Amber Alert to everybody that's on the app at 15 kilometers.
Got it.
So I can send that alert out. And so the police get it, cycling community gets it, and the bike stores get it.
So you're
everybody
building a
working
system.
together.
Yeah. I know every case varies, but what happens to bikes once they're stolen if they do end up chopped? How do bikes end up in different provinces in a number of days, I understand?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So 2 parts to that. So what we learned from the app, like I said, being on the street for, a few decades, I thought, just like you said, the bicycles end up on the street. Within a couple of weeks, they're chopped up. But we're learning that's not the case. The bicycle, and it makes sense. So one of the biggest recoveries we had in Vancouver was a mini storage with 200 bikes. And so when we interviewed the property crime individual afterwards, I was like, wow, all these bikes are together. Like, there's no frames, there's no parts, like they haven't been parted out like I believed. And he's like, why? What are you talking about? I've got 200 bikes. How am I going to sell 200 sets of wheels, 200 sets of pedals, 200, et cetera, et cetera? He goes, I can sell this bicycle in one piece within a couple hours on Facebook or Kijiji. But if I start breaking them down, and I was like, that was our big kind of aha moment. And then to go with your point too was I recovered a bicycle from the individual who lived in Ottawa. So I phoned him. I'm like, hi, it's Detective Rob Brunt. I'm with BPD. I got your bike. Were you here on the holidays? He's like, nope. I'm like, okay, did you lend the bike to somebody and they're here? Nope. He goes, tell you what, somebody broke into my house on Saturday, took a bunch of property, put it in a backpack, and, got their getaway vehicle was my bicycle from the garage. And I'm like, Saturday, it's Thursday. How did that bike travel across Canada? I'm going to send it back to the individual, but it's legitimately, I can't get it to as fast as Crime Inc. worked. I can't get it back to him as quick as that. And so we see the property crime because it's not just bicycles. It's, stolen cars, it's stolen jewelry. It's, no property offender has a card that says bike thief. They're property offenders. They'll break into your house, break into your car, and then just the bicycle is a really easy piece of material to sell without getting caught.
Just in our last 30 seconds here as we round out this conversation, what's the biggest, most important thing Winnipeg could learn about what's being done in Vancouver to stop stolen bikes from being resold?
Well, I'm super fortunate in Winnipeg because the city and the police department are using Project 5 to 9. So register your bike, report it if it gets, please report it if it gets stolen. And then, buy yourself a good lock and educate yourself on how to use it. I mean, nowadays you can go on Google, you can learn all this information. I know it's the hard thing when you're paying a few grand for a bicycle to now purchase an expensive lock. But final comment, an individual that works for one of the lock companies said, Rob, if I had your bike outside, would you pay the $300, the cost of the lock to get it back? And I'm like, heck yeah. And he goes, well, why wouldn't you buy a nice lock? And so that kind of hit home for me.
Right. Thank you very much, Rob. I really appreciate your time on this.
No, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Rob Brunt, 529's Garage's Chief Outreach Officer, reached in Vancouver. Winnipeg cyclists, as he mentioned, can register their bikes for free. So check out the website, the numbers now, 529, project529.com/garage. It is now 8:23 a.m. on 89.3 FM, 990 a.m., or on YouTube. Sorry, Abby. Abby was trying to play a sting there. I'm just going to be full radio right out there, and I talked right over it. That's because I'm anxious to get to our next guest, who is with us this morning to talk about Ken Dryden. On Friday, the former Montreal Canadiens goaltender Ken Dryden died at the age of 78 from cancer. He had quite a career, to say the least. 1972, he was between the pipes for the series against the Soviets, the Summit Series. But then after his career on the ice, when he was pretty much at the peak of it, he left hockey and then he ran for the Federal Liberals. He was Minister of Social Development in Prime Minister Paul Martin's cabinet. My next guest knows him well, and there's some pictures that she shared that are going to be on YouTube while we're talking here. Lise Jolicoeur is with us. She was Parliamentary Secretary in Ottawa and worked with him on his Liberal Party leadership race as well in 2006. She stayed in touch with him since and called him a good friend. She is, as I mentioned, originally from Lorette, Manitoba, and with us now. Thanks for making some time for us.
Thanks for having me, Marcy.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
Oh, thank you.
It's interesting because when someone like Ken Dryden dies, I think a lot of people feel like we knew him somewhat. He was so public, right, with hockey as an athlete, as a politician. And then you kind of, in your mind, think, he was what he was like. But what was he like privately? What was the man like?
The man was exactly what you saw. And what I mean by that is he was completely personal with anybody he met. I used to go door knocking with him during his campaigns, and it was impossible to get him from door to door because he would have conversations with every single person, and long conversations about, oh, I remember when you played, the 72 series, or when you were a goalie at the Habs. People wanted to talk about those memories with him. And it's like as if he was having that conversation for the first time, but he had it multiple times. But he really wanted to know about people. He wanted to know about them as well. So he would turn the conversation and find out about them. But door knocking with him was impossible. It wasn't like, okay, let's get to the next door. You've got to get through this whole, this pole, and you couldn't get through a pole with him because of that. And he would just fuss fluff us off because he'd be like, no, I want to take the time. So that's how he was.
And
he was completely personable.
And I bet everyone wanted to talk to him. I can't imagine how many times the 72 series came up hockey-wise.
Oh, I mean, you wouldn't believe it. I still, to this day, carry Sharpies with me because I'm so used to carrying Sharpies for him because people would ask him, oh, wait a second, and they go and grab a book or grab a jersey or go grab some kind of paraphernalia to have him sign it. So to this day, I still have Sharpies in my purse because I'm so used to having them.
These pictures that you share with us are very personal, and people might be thinking, oh, you were the press secretary. He was, cabinet minister. But he wasn't. He sort of broke a lot of rules that might exist. I mean, I understand he would be always open for a chat, would even reach out to you. Is that right?
That's right. I mean, to this day, I would send him emails. He would give me a call. We had a very personal relationship, but he was like that with a lot of his former staff. Once you became his friend, you were his friend for life. And he did things that most politicians did not do. I mean, I barely knew him. I was working for Reg Alcock at the time when he was Minister of Social Development. And he asked his press secretary to connect with me because he knew I was undergoing cancer treatment at the time. And he wanted to talk to me, but I didn't know why. I was like, why on earth does Ken Dryden want to speak with me? I'm a, press secretary for another minister. I didn't understand. I'm like, I hope I didn't do anything wrong, right? But that was my first,
first
instinct,
exactly.
Right? And he just wanted to take the time to find out how I was doing. And, that touched me so much so because nobody else had done that. And, not even other, staff members. So for him to take the time out of his schedule to do that was, it just speaks a lot about the man.
Did you ever get to ask him why he left at the pinnacle of his hockey career? Or was it sort of, by the time you met him, he was already fully dedicated to his political career?
Yeah, I've had many conversations about hockey, and it was more like it's time, I think he saw other players, continue to ride the wave, if you will. And then, not be at the greatest that they were at the time. And he wanted to go on to the next chapter. He used to say that was chapter 3 of my life. I'm now on to chapter 10. So that was him. He was interested in so many different things, and he wanted to learn more, and he wanted to contribute in different ways to society. So I think that's who he was.
Would he have made a good leader? Should he have won the Liberal leadership race and maybe gone on to be PM?
Listen, I am completely biased, but I think he would have been the best prime minister Canada and Canadians never had. He had a patriotism that went beyond patriotism. It went, I would say, he had a strong belief and confidence in Canadians themselves, that they wanted the best for Canada. So I think it goes beyond just patriotism. It goes into the belief that Canadians would do the right thing for Canada.
What a way to leave it, and what a legacy he leaves. Thank you very much, Lise Jolicoeur. We really appreciate your time today.
Thank you for having me, Marcy.
That was Lise Jolicoeur, who is originally from Lorette, Manitoba, remembering Ken Dryden. Ken Dryden died Friday at the age of 78 after battling cancer. Right now, it's time for your CBC News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 8:30, it's 10 degrees. We're going to see clouds move in, slight chance of showers, and get set for a warm week. Today, above normal with a high of 22. It is the third day of a community-wide search for a missing woman in Wasagamek First Nation. 31-year-old Roxanne Little was last seen August 22nd at her uncle's home where she stayed in that Island Lake community. Wasagamek is only accessible by boat and air this time of year. Over the weekend, Wasagamek and Garden Hill led house-to-house searches. Her uncle, Alfred Harper, says she hasn't been active on social media and it's unlike her to not come home. He says RCMP arrived Sunday to join search teams from Wasagamek and Garden Hill. Roxanne Little is 5'2". She has a slim build, long black hair, and you can see her photo up on our website this morning. As Brandon students head back to school, some parents say they feel reassured by new safety measures. Last June, a black student at Neelan High School was seriously injured in a sword attack. Now, new Safe Schools advisory committees will be in every school to coordinate advice on safety strategies and policies. Emmanuel Ahoniku chairs the Umu Igbo Brandon Association. He says while the attack left families shaken, the response from the school division, police, and the city has helped rebuild confidence.
The belief in the system, the trust in the system. So the apprehension is there, but the belief has to be bigger than the fear.
Aheniku, who has 3 children in Brandon School Division, says he appreciates the strong messages about unity and saying no to racism. Former Winnipeg Blue Bombers star Willard Reeves is making a return to the political arena. Reeves plans to run for the leadership of Manitoba's Liberal Party. He previously ran unsuccessfully in 2022 in a by-election and the 2023 general election in the Fort White riding for the provincial Liberals.
That didn't stop me. What I did was open up a book and read everything I can possibly read about politics, the difference of politics, and what we need to do and how we need to do it.
Reeves also served as party's deputy leader. He says he has not yet identified where he will run to gain a seat in the Manitoba legislature. Christopher Adams is a political sciences professor at the University of Manitoba. He says while many think of Reeves as the football star with the Bombers, running for the Liberal leadership makes sense given the party's difficult situation.
They've been reduced to 1 seat as of the last election, and Cindy Lamoureux has expressed no interest in running for the leadership this time around. So the party needs a leader, and Willard Reeves looks like somebody who'd be quite suited to that position.
The Liberal Party of Manitoba will have a leadership convention next month. Federal, provincial, and territorial ministers of agriculture from across Canada are meeting in Winnipeg this week. The annual conference comes as Canadian canola producers feel the impact of a punishing 75.8% tariff slapped on by China last month. The federal government pledged $370 million in incentives for canola last week. Heath MacDonald is Canada's agriculture minister.
This is just a start. This isn't the final destination that we're going to be at. I know you're stressed. You need to make business decisions. This is your livelihood and what you're hoping to pass along to the next generation.
MacDonald and Manitoba's Agriculture Minister Ron Kostishin met with people in the industry. Yesterday, they also toured farms in the province. The conference wraps up tomorrow. The owner of a pumpkin patch in St. Andrews got an outpouring of support to help save her harvest over the weekend. Schwabe Pumpkins owner Melody Schwabe says drought put the Interlake farm about a month behind schedule. And then she put out a tearful video on social media before frost. Worried about her pumpkins, the community stepped up to help.
So many of the people had never even heard of my farm or been here, and they just came, some with their kids. There were lots of seniors who came out too, and people from all walks of life. It was just beautiful to meet everybody.
Schwabe says about 100 volunteers helped between Friday and Saturday pick and bin the pumpkins for Schwabe and her husband to sort and see which ones can be salvaged. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day. Just stay in step by heading to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thanks, Heather Wells.
Thank you.
And thanks, Joni Nicolo, Megan Ketchison out there, as well as our producers, Leif Larson and Nellie Gonzalez, and associate producers that worked on items in the show today, Marshall Hodgins, Jenna Badosso, and our community reporter in unit, Shanna Lee Vidal. All right, let's have a last look at what's happening on the morning commute. There were a couple things, Corey.
Yeah, northbound East Perimeter, just after the number 1, there's been a collision, multi-vehicle collision, blocking the left lane, so keep right to get around that. Last I heard, there was tow trucks on scene, but don't know if it's actually been cleared or not. As well, might still be the Riverwalk under the Donald Street Bridge is closed for bridge construction, so you can't get to or from the Forks if you're heading that direction.
Want to weigh in on the radio noon column between 12:30 and 1? Here's the question today. Should Manitoba consider a social media ban for kids under 16? Should Manitoba consider a social media ban for kids under the age of 16? You can weigh in live on CBC with the local call-in between 12:30 and 1 with host Marjorie Dowhouse on Radio Noon. Abby.
A mile there crossboard, Marcy. The highs will climb to 22, 23 in the southern part of the province. Churchill gets to 11 and other parts of the north will see 21 degrees.
Okay, I owe you $2 for stepping on that sting, right?
Yeah, you do. No taxes included.
No taxes? Okay,
Yep.
all right. That means there's tax on top of it. I'll have to do the math. Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for listening this morning. A special thanks to our live crew, of course, Brad Lillies and Abby Adiyemi and Corey Funk. Take care, be well, Manitoba. We'll talk to you again tomorrow on Information Radio on CBC.